Conversations about protests have started in Kenya, but beyond Kenya, and even maybe now Nigeria, also seeing them springing up in Uganda as well. These are some of the conversations we're going to be looking at this morning on Breakfast Central. Thank you for joining us. I am Olive Emodi.
And I am Osaogi Ogbawa, welcoming you to, of course, Breakfast Central this morning. As always, remember, you can be a part of the conversation. If there's aspects of any of the things that we bring up this morning that you would like to also jump in on, please remember, you can call us on our phone lines, of course, which will be on your screens by 8 a.m. this morning, or simply tweet at News Central TV and let us know your thoughts on these top stories. We have the growing concerns of a protest in Uganda. Nigeria, of course, also talking about a protest. Kenya is still dealing with it with its own. And it's going to be very dependent on how these individual governments handle the issues, that will determine how long these protests would last, if they would, eventually kick off. President Yoweri Museveni is threatening his citizens, instead of course, doing it the other way, which is figuring out what the issue is. And,
figuring out for someone that's been in power since 1986, is there anything
well,
figuring out there?
Yeah, so it also depends on what exactly the concerns are. It's not just, the length of time that he has been in office. It's other things. It's corruption, it's mismanagement of office.
No, I say that's because I feel that someone who has been in office since 1986 has already set a precedence for how he runs an office. He has a very strong, or would I say iron fist, with which he uses to run the office. So there's not really going to be much room for negotiation with protesters. I wasn't surprised when I saw that he was threatening Ugandan young
saying
people.
You're playing with fire.
Saying they're playing with fire. It's typical Yoweri Museveni. I don't think I expected him to have a sit down with them. If they have to get any change, they might have to take it by force.
Well, we'll see how things go, and it once again brings back the conversation, concerning the Kenyan protest and what that might have triggered across the continent. Because many people have watched the last few weeks in Kenya and seen how young people in Kenya have taken it to their government and said, to President William Ruto that enough is enough, and it started with a protest against the finance bill. It seems to have now developed into a Ruto must go protest. And so everyone, of course, has watched how things have unfolded there, and it might give rise to many other protests in different parts of the continent where many young people are very, very dissatisfied with government, including here in Nigeria. And it's worrisome.
Speaking about here in Nigeria, what we've seen is that the people who were at the forefront of protests in past administrations are similarly the ones who are clamping down on protests now. And if you look at the quality of life that we had at that time and the quality of life that we have now, there's a vast difference with things having become progressively bad. So it's a bit ironic to see that a number of them will speak against protests, because first of all, protesting is a right enshrined in the Constitution. So long as you're guaranteed a right to peaceful protest, it's when there's some form of violence that then the government can step in. President Bola Ahmed Tinubu tweeted saying that no protesters should be shot, the young people should be protected. I've seen that some people have started making them into shirts to ensure that we don't see a repeat of what happened on the 20th of October 2020. When it comes to conversations about protests all around the world, they typically should be guaranteed. But it's unfortunate that, right now, because of what happened in 2020, nobody knows just how exactly this will turn out. If it's going to happen, and if it does happen, will the lives of young people be guaranteed? Will there be hoodlums that will be sent to protest? I remember seeing someone, I can't remember who now, I think it's a public figure, who said that protests may not be able to work in Nigeria. And the reason he gave for this was that if you look at other countries that have protested, you would see that there was a united front. A number of them were protesting for the same cause. They didn't have different ethnic tribes. Now, the update regarding the protests is there's a northern group that has pulled out of the protest, saying that they support President Tinubu's initiative. So when all of you are speaking different tribes, you're all from different tribes, speaking different languages, there will be a challenge, because you start to see this group, pro-government group, anti-government group, and all these different factions springing up that won't allow.
I've always said, and of course, it is a crazy level of hypocrisy, seeing the people who protested in 2012 and have led and supported many protests in the past, including even, NLC protests, led by Adams Oshomole, having a completely different view now when things are arguably 1,000 times worse than they were before. So, there's that hypocrisy, but I don't think anybody's surprised or shocked by it. It is expected that people would protect their personal interests. They will protest when they, will not be affected by the protest, or they are trying to, of course, achieve something, personally from that protest. Unfortunately, a lot of Nigerians will be fooled into supporting some protesters or some people who lead protests, for their own personal interest. But that's a different thing entirely. I feel like, and one of the things that I did post a few days ago is the fact that I don't think that Nigerians love Nigeria enough. And it's one thing that I've been trying to express in the last few weeks, that I wish that Nigerians loved Nigeria enough to actually, fight for it. And I'm not saying fight violently for it, but I wish that Nigerians love Nigeria enough to put aside their tribe and their religion and political affiliations when it comes to discussing their country, Nigeria. That when it's time for us to say, okay, there are certain things that we are not happy about with regards to our country, we will all come together as Nigerians and say we demand better from government, we demand better from government at all levels, basically. But if we don't get that, you will continuously see that people would pick their tribe and they will pick their religion and they'll pick, what part of the country they are from, when deciding these things. But
all right. I mean, it's a continuing story, and as we see this progress, we're going to be looking more at it this morning on Breakfast Central.
We begin breakfast headlines in Nigeria's capital, Abuja, where the government has stepped in to mediate the conflict between Aliko Dangote and the Nigerian Midstream and Downstream Petroleum Regulatory Authority. Dangote has encountered significant obstacles in importing crude oil for his Lagos refinery amid allegations of interference by a blocking cabal. The NMDPRA maintains that the refinery has not yet been licensed and remains in the pre-commissioning stage. And the Ondo State Police Command has rescued all corps members kidnapped by bandits along the Benin-Owo Expressway. Police Public Relations Officer Fumilayo Odunlami confirmed the release of the victims on Monday. The kidnappers, numbering about 15, armed with AK-47 rifles, were said to have accosted the bus conveying the travelers at about 11 p.m. last Friday, killing the driver and one traveler. Really sad story there. Now, moving to politics, the Edo chapter of the All Progressives Congress has urged the State House of Assembly to immediately commence impeachment proceedings on Governor Obaseki for allegedly threatening to burn down the country. The state chairman of the party, Jared Tenebe, said this in a statement in reaction to a video of the governor speaking on the shooting incident that led to the death of Inspector Ako Onu, the police orderly of Special Senator Monday Okpebolo last Thursday. And moving away from Edo State, let's go to Rivers now, where the Martin Amaewhule-led State House of Assembly has frowned at the continued stay in office of the caretaker committee chairmen, despite a Supreme Court judgment declaring them illegal and wants them arrested. Amaewhule called on the police to arrest the caretaker committee chairmen wherever they were seen parading themselves. Also in the news, now to the northern part of the continent, Egyptian authorities have arrested a cartoonist, Ashraf Omar, at his Cairo home after he drew a series of satirical images. It is the second such arrest this month after journalist Khalid Mamdou was apprehended at home on July 16th and kept in an unknown location before reappearing before the state security prosecutors on Sunday. And now in the east of the continent, Tanzania's information minister Nape Nnauye has been fired by President Samia Suluhu Hassan after his controversial comments suggesting election rigging. Nnauye was caught on video saying he would help a fellow ruling party MP win in 2025 using legal, half-legal and illegal methods. Despite apologizing and claiming he was joking, the public outcry led to his removal. This is not Nnauye's first controversy. He made similar remarks in 2015. And that's all on Breakfast Headlines. We'll take a short break, and when we come back, we're moving back into Breakfast Central with our top stories. After weeks of shocking revelations and, of course, a bit of a back and forth between Aliko Dangote and the head of Nigeria's oil and gas sectors, the Nigerian House of Representatives has pledged to resolve the dispute bordering on the inability of the federal government to supply crude oil to local, private and modular refineries, thereby stalling their operations and frustrating their ability to produce petrol. Now, this was made by the chairperson of the House of Representatives Joint Committee investigating the allegations by operators of local refineries, as they urged all parties to the dispute to await the resolution by the House. Idong Joseph tells us more.
The inaugural sitting of the House of Representatives Joint Committee investigating challenges faced by Nigeria's midstream and downstream petroleum sector, importation of substandard products, as well as allegations of product unavailability to domestic refineries.
Our investigation will proceed in phases, beginning with the investigation of the allegation of alleged production and importation of substandard petroleum products and the non-availability of crude oil to domestic refineries.
The unique opportunity before us allows both the midstream and the downstream committees to work collaboratively to tackle the pressing issues within our petroleum industry.
Following complaints by local refiners like the Dangote refinery, alleging that they are unable to buy Nigerian crude, and counter-allegations that products of some companies are substandard, the committee ordered the suspension of all disagreements.
The Joint Committee resolved that both parties in the raging argument, Dangote Refinery, other refining companies, NMDPRA, marketers, and relevant stakeholders should henceforth cease further allegations and counter-allegations pending the conclusion and outcome of the investigation.
The Deputy Speaker of the House, on his part, charged the members of the Investigative Committee on transparency and fairness to all parties and to be professional in delivering its mandates. He also urged them to consider the interests of the people in the investigation and to find lasting solutions to the challenges confronting the oil and gas sector.
That you stand on the part of the people rather than the part of any other interest. Let the center of this investigation be on the people, and all about the people of Nigerians who are suffering.
The committee assures that it will undertake detailed investigations of all local refineries, marketers and importers facilities, regulatory agencies, state-owned companies and other players in the sector in order to ensure a thorough and transparent investigation. In Abuja for News Central, I am Idong Joseph.
And thanks to Idong Joseph for that report. Very interesting there. And of course, it is, extremely important that the House of Representatives at this time does carry out its investigative report. Many would also argue that not very many Nigerians would expect a lot from such a report, but at least it should still be done, or rather from such an investigation, but it should still be done. It is hard to understand that a country with our crude oil resources, with the number of refineries that Nigeria is meant to have, the number of modular refineries we've eventually gotten to have, still struggles to provide crude oil to refineries, and of course to provide Nigerians with adequate PMS and other derivatives of crude oil. So it's difficult to understand, that this is our reality. Will this investigative work by the House of Reps lead anywhere? Maybe, maybe not. But there's so much more that we can achieve if we really just put things in place and have things work in the way that they should.
Right. I mean, it's important. You've really said it all. I don't think there's much more to say. Also, with the Dangote conversation being right at the center of the picture, we've seen Dangote speaking a lot more to media in the past few weeks, expressing his distress with with the way that he's been, in a way, labeled a number of things, monopolistic being one of them, the quality of his products being inferior being another label that they've leveled against him. And it'll be interesting, or it'll be important that these conversations are investigated. The CEO of NMDPRA, Amaewhule, coming out to state clearly that the quality of their product is inferior to the ones imported. is not something that can be made on a whim. It should be investigated as well. These are very strong, quote-unquote, allegations that have the impact, that would have a huge impact on his business. So before we make such statements that some people regard as unfounded, it's important that you can share how you came to that conclusion. So I do look forward to the committee being established, but even though, like you said, in Nigeria, we don't really have a lot of faith when we hear that a committee is going to look into this, a committee is going to investigate this, because a number of times it just feels like lip service. They're paying lip service because they know that right now Nigerians are Nigerians are very frustrated with how the business has been done. They're frustrated with how Dangote has been painted. In an interesting way, a number of Nigerians are fully behind Mr. Aliko Dangote because they do see that it's beyond what is being said, but that there's some element of politics to it. So yeah, we look forward to seeing what the results of the investigation will yield, and we'll talk more about it as we get further information. But for now, we'll go on a break. And when we return, we'll be heading to Uganda, where young Ugandans are most likely going to hit the streets against the better judgment, quote unquote, of their president, Yoweri Museveni. Stay with us. Young Ugandans are determined to take to the streets today to protest against corruption in the government, despite warnings from President Yoweri Museveni that they are playing with fire. And in an attempt to quash the protest, security forces yesterday surrounded the headquarters of the main opposition party, the National Unity Party. We'll bring you more clips of that as we proceed with the show.
Now, the police have also refused to authorize the march, but the protest leaders are adamant that they will proceed, citing their constitutional right to peaceful assembly. The situation is tense in Uganda, and it remains so, and we'll see, of course, how events will unfold today. Now, let's quickly share with you, of course, quick clips from Uganda before we get into this conversation.
Now, my question is, what right then do you have to seek to generate chaotic behavior? What right do you have? We are busy producing wealth. You are getting cheap food. Other people in the other parts of the world are starving. They are crying for hunger. And you here, you want to disturb us. You are playing with the fire because we cannot allow you to disturb us. Demonstrate, when you demonstrate in a place like Kampala, people are sitting on the roadside. Are you going to step in people's products? You are playing. Do not have such ideas in your head. If you want, contact Nakarema on a day when there is no Sunday, there's no traffic here in the center. At least we can go to Korora and talk nicely about whatever we want to talk about, but do not bring. Don't be tempted to bring chaos, step on people's products on the road. So we are.
Now joining us is the Executive Director, Center for Constitutional Governance Uganda, Sarah Bireete. Good morning, Sarah. Thanks for joining us.
Good morning. I'm glad to be speaking to you on this TV Nigeria.
Great to have you. I mean, first question really would be, why have Ugandans chosen to play with fire?
Well, the Constitution of Uganda guarantees a right to citizens to demonstrate in Article 29 of the Constitution, and that is the replica of the International Bill of Rights. A right to protest, demonstrate, petition is an inherent right that the state does not grant, but should only facilitate its enjoyment by the citizens. Uganda, since the enactment of the 1995 Constitution, has had a turbulent, enjoyment of rights, especially right to demonstrate and protest under President Museveni. Act, where it usurped the constitutional powers that it should authorize or deny protests. This section was set aside by the Constitutional Court, which declared the right to protest, but can only provide security and regulate that enjoyment of right. The same section was reenacted under Section 8 of the Public Order Management Act. Under Section 8.
All right. We do seem to be struggling with a bit of your network, as we're missing bits and pieces of your words. We're going to go ahead and try again to see if it gets better. I mean, you've given the constitutional backing, the legal backing as to why the people of Uganda, like my colleague will say, are choosing to play with fire. They do have a right to protest as enshrined in the laws. But let's look at what the reality is in Uganda. In his speech attempting to dissuade young people from protesting, he talked about how Ugandans buy food relatively cheaper in Uganda than in other parts of the world, how they're not hungry. So what is the current reality like in Uganda? And why are the people, the young people in Uganda, displeased enough to want to hit the streets?
Well, the people of Uganda have been attempting to demonstrate over time or protest, but the police uses high-handedness to stop them. From yesterday, we have been seeing heavy deployment of military on the streets of Kampala. So the approach of government is to not allow any momentum in the country, because President Museveni knows that after 38 years in power, Ugandans are tired, but he uses the military and police and high-handedness to keep away the frustrations of Ugandans, and he cannot allow any momentum. Even when the cause to fight corruption is something he's trying to do, he cannot allow citizens to get on the streets, because he knows that once the citizens are on the street, the demands will increase. The last time there was a protest in 2020 after the arrest of opposition leader Bobi Wine, about 100 people were killed on the streets of Kampala. So this time, we hope that the young people will be protected and will be allowed to carry on with their protests, because their demands are very clear.
Yeah, I mean, well, we hope that that's the case, but I'm sure there's a part of us who also understands that it is very possible that it might also lead to more violence, just like the last time. Can you share with us, if there is anybody who's leading this protest? Is Bobi Wine also playing a role in this particular protest, or is this simply just by the young people of Uganda? And also, has this been inspired by what we've seen in Kenya?
Yes, the inspiration comes from Kenya, but the young people are organizing this on their own, and Bobi Wine and his party are not involved. But the state suspects that they are involved, because one of the volunteer leaders of young people belongs to the National Unity Platform and has been seen wearing the attire of the National Unity Platform, the red cap. So when the state sees such things, yesterday they sieged the party of Bobi Wine, they arrested several leaders, and they did not allow them to carry on with their regular press conference and the political party activities. And I am sure that by midday today or so, Bobi Wine could be put under house arrest. There are barricades around town. There are roadblocks at all centers entering Kampala, but also Parliament has been sieged off. Nobody is allowed to access the premises of Parliament, and there's diversion of all traffic around Parliament of Uganda today. But the world should know that what are the demands of young people in Uganda. The young people have summarized their demands into 7. The first demand is for the Speaker of Parliament to resign. The Speaker has been sanctioned by the US UK and the United Arab Emirates over excessive corruption and the possible money laundering because her properties have been frozen in these countries. They are also demanding for the resignation of the 4 commissioners who received the alleged service award that is not provided for in the law, totaling to 1.7 billion Uganda shillings. They are demanding for a reduction of size of parliament. Uganda has the 2nd highest parliament next to India, when India has a population of 600 billion and Uganda has a population of 45 million people. They are also demanding for resignation of members of parliament involved in corruption and a lifestyle audit for members of parliament, plus a reduction of salaries for parliament, and allowing Ugandans to freely enjoy their right to petition and demonstrate.
Can you paint a picture?
These are very realistic demands, and they are all constitutional.
Yeah.
And we are calling upon the government of Uganda and President Museveni in particular to stop usurping the functions of the state and hijacking the fundamental rights of Ugandans.
I want you to also share with us, when you talk about corruption in Uganda, what exactly are we talking about? How bad is it? And has there been any attempt to also curtail the level of corruption?
Well, the Inspector General of Government, who is the head of the institution charged with fighting corruption, has estimated our corruption to 10 trillion Uganda shillings. This is a fifth of our annual budget. So 20% of our budget is lost to corruption, according to the Inspector General of Government. This is endemic corruption. It shows that you cannot fully implement service delivery in the country when 20% of the budget is stolen by individuals. We have also had a slow fight against corruption, where the regime protects its supporters whenever they are mentioned in corruption deals and only persecutes those that support opposition. So we've had selective application of the law in the fight against corruption. This has made the vice, go to pandemic levels. We have a corruption pandemic in Uganda. I don't think that any country has corruption levels to the extent of Uganda. For any, bill or supplementary budget that is put on the floor of the House, half of the money is shared by MPs and the officers who process these budgets. It does not reach to the intended function of the people. And the climax of this was when 23 ministers were named in a saga of stealing iron sheets from Karamoja. Karamoja is the most impoverished region in Uganda, and at that time people were dying of hunger. A supplementary budget was passed to try to resettle the former cattle rustlers by helping them have shelter, stop the nomadic nature of their lives. Most of these iron sheets were stolen by cabinet members, including the vice president, prime minister, and several ministers, but only 3 ministers were charged in court. The rest were forgiven.
And I'm glad that you mentioned that, I'm really glad that you've mentioned the Karamoja incidents, the roofing sheet scandal, where we had about 26 ministers and about 31 legislators. And you've mentioned that of this huge number of people who had to go to court, that only 3 were found guilty. If I heard you correctly, did you say only 3 were found guilty?
Yes, only 3 have been charged in court.
Okay, have been charged in court, not yet found guilty. Great. How would you say that the Ugandan judiciary, what is the strength of the Ugandan judiciary to bring people who have allegations of corruption to justice? In this fight against corruption, what is the role that Uganda's judiciary plays? And do the people in Uganda, the citizens of Uganda, have trust in their judiciary?
Well, the overstay of President Museveni for 38 years has led to the collapse of all institutions, including the judiciary. So the judiciary only functions when the executive wishes to function. If the executive does not wish it to function, then it's dead. So there is selective application of the law, there is selective functioning of the judiciary. If the regime wants to support us, then the judiciary will set them free. That's the nature of the dispensation of justice in Uganda.
Okay, and also let's talk about what the potential effects of this protest, should it happen, what it will be. We've seen that Uganda is a country where even for political parties to have meetings, they need to get permission from the police. We've seen a number of times where the police will not approve, and the police has said that for these protests, they're not going to give approval, even though the young people have said that they will go on regardless of the police approval. So how do you foresee that this will turn out? Are there fears that, you know, there might be people hurt? And is this something to consider, even as the young people still have decided to go ahead with the protest?
Well, obviously, many people will be hurt. So the crossroad for Uganda is either to overcome their fear and redeem their country, or to continue to be inflicted by fear and suffer under the dictatorship that cannot deliver services to the people. So that's the mark that we need to cross as a country. It's also an opportunity for President Museveni to redeem himself after 38 years of leadership. He claims to be a Democrat, but he acts contrary to what democratic leaders do. If he is indeed a Democrat, let him protect young people on the streets of Kampala today and allow them to push back against the pandemic of corruption that he is presiding over as a leader of Uganda.
All right. Well, we'll see how things turn out. You know, there's obviously worries that, you know, people might be hurt, you know, if they go out with the protest. And of course, if you refer to the last protest that you mentioned, about 100 people lost their lives, you know, in that last protest. So hopefully it doesn't turn out the same way this time. We'd like to speak with you again as things develop. And of course, you know, would say all the best to Ugandans and to yourself as well. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you for hosting me, and goodbye.
Okay. The worries, of course, you know, are that
valid.
It doesn't,
yeah, they are very valid, because for someone who's held on to power for over 3 decades with an iron fist, I don't see how this is going to pan out. We've seen how he is, how even though he claims that he's not pushing for his son to be his successor, but conversations about Project Museveni they're not new in Uganda. Everybody knows about that. Yeah. I remember the time when they were they're trying to have a political meeting, and the police came and disrupted the meeting. And what was the reason they gave? They said that, and these people had applied for permission to get it. You remember we had this conversation, yes. And the excuse was the road leading to where they were having the meeting was bad. If there was an emergency, fire service or whatever service would not be able to get across to them, which a number of people found ridiculous. You can't say that you are a country that allows people, you know, express their democratic will, their will to participate in politics and be a part of any political party, the freedom to meet with their political party, yet you are being caged. You should go and look at what's happened in Tanzania and how Samia Suluhu Hassan has been able to reverse what John Magufuli did in Tanzania, and being able to allow people participate freely in politics, until we get to the point where the citizens in Uganda can actually vote their president. Uganda is not practicing any form of democracy.
I mean, it's not, it's not the ideal idea of democracy. It is just democracy on paper, but not democracy in practice.
At all, exactly.
And it's not different from many other countries across the continent.
I heard her say that Uganda is the most corrupt country on the continent.
But my point is, you know, the whole idea of, you know, we're a democracy to a lot of countries on the continent is really not.
It's a joke.
It's a joke, you know, and it's also because the most important tenets of democracy, the most important factors that determine a democracy are really, you know, still held by the people in power.
Primarily free and fair elections for starters. Yeah. The mode by which your leader is put into power has to be free, fair, credible, and generally seen by most to be free, fair, and credible.
Exactly. And And it's not even just the electoral process itself. It's even in the selection process, the way that you even get the options to choose from, from the primary, the stages, the political parties, and the ways that they are set up. You realize that for decades you're torn between the devil and the deep blue sea. You never really would get the best quality of hands vying for political position, and it is because of how the system is set up. We, of course, continue to tell ourselves that we're in a democracy, but it's really not it, democracy. And of course, he's been in office for 38 or 39 years.
38 years, somewhere between 37 and 39.
And that really is the picture, the stereotypical picture of the African continent. Lifetime leadership. You barely get to see that there is. I mean, Nigeria is seemingly lucky, even if we have our own challenges. But we're seemingly lucky in that regard that we've not had a situation where one person has imposed himself on the office for a long, long time. And that is also because, to give Nigeria and Nigerians some credit, we have fought to protect the democracy and the constitution, just in that regard, that it's almost, there's definitely been times when one person or the other may have attempted to extend their stay in office, but Nigerians were able to, at least the Nigerian people were able to fight against it. So if that's the only thing, I'll give Nigerians some credit.
It's just, again, to highlight the fact that power corrupts and absolute power corrupts absolutely. Yeah. We say this all the time, but we see it when it comes to African politics and how African politicians, in all fairness, not just African politicians. No, African politicians like to cling to power. We don't see that as much in the West as much as we see it in Africa, even though, yes, everybody's intoxicated by power regardless of what part of the world or what region in the world you are. But I'm hoping that we're having a crop of young people who will redefine what democracy really is and what form of government is applicable per country and, to a country and per time. And maybe, again, some would say we should probably revisit what the concept of democracy really is and how applicable a system of government it is for the continent. If we find ourselves, if we're able to refine the structures through which leadership is chosen in Nigeria, then we might be able to get a better quality of leadership. And that's one thing that I believe that we lack. The quality. It's not because, yes, you don't have elections every 4 years. You have your elections. You might argue with the way that the elections have been carried out, the free, and fair quality and all of that of the elections. But the thing is, the quality of human beings that are eventually elected almost makes it seem like it's a complete waste of time. The quality of human beings starting up from the party, like for example in Nigeria, you getting to be your party's flag bearer. So I think it's a whole chain that needs to be revamped, because like you've said, we don't have, sometimes you look at the quality of candidates, A doesn't really have head, B doesn't have head, C doesn't have head. So you really have to pick the better from, exactly. It's a devil and deep blue sea situation, really. Yeah, and it's very, very heartbreaking. It is. And that's why I keep talking about time and how everyone needs to be more conscious about their time. I believe in the younger generation to sort of change, the kind of conversation, the trajectory of politics that we're running here in the country. But let's move the conversation away from Nigeria. All right. Since its establishment in 2003, the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, EFCC, has been at the forefront of Nigeria's fight against corruption. Now, while the agency has achieved significant milestones, it continues to face challenges in securing convictions in high-stakes cases. Despite making numerous arrests, conducting thorough investigations, and recovering substantial loot, the EFCC faces hurdles in getting convictions. The challenges include insufficient evidence, political interference, and more. As Nigeria persists in its fight against corruption, the EFCC remains a vital institution. This morning, to discuss this, we're joined by some of EFCC's achievements and challenges is the head Media and Publicity, Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, Dele Oyewale. Good morning, and thank you very much for joining us.
Good morning. Thank you for having me on the program. All right.
Let's get into the conversation right away. One of the things, or one of the allegations we've heard against the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission would be that there is a low conviction rate in many high-profile cases, with a number of them ending in acquittals or discharge, or we don't even just hear the end. It's sort of swept under the carpet. So talk to us about this challenge that many have said is bedeviling the EFCC's efforts, and how the EFCC seeks to surmount this.
Well, you see, when you talk about the issue of conviction, it is not entirely correct to say that the Commission is having challenges or there are issues that bother, maybe not to post performance. The truth of the matter is that we have considerable, remarkable, and very impressive conviction rates, even in high-profile cases. If a commission is able to secure about 4,000 convictions in 1 year, I think it is fair to say that there is quite a bit of hard work, a bit of resourcefulness, a bit of commitment that has been put into it. It is this high-profile cases that we are talking about. The commission increasingly, we are getting convictions from high-profile cases. But you will also agree with me that the pyrotechnics of the law, the issue of technicality, the peculiarity of our judiciary, and of course, quite a number of other issues might affect the trial of high-profile cases. But that is not enough to say that the commission is having challenges in this area. We have quite a number of convictions, even high-profile ones, that we even secured over time. So, but when you look at the judiciary generally, the fault cannot be placed on either the judiciary or even on the EFCC. It has to do with the peculiarity of each of these cases. If you go to our court, many of these defense counsels, they are behind all of these things. One single issue, they will drag it from the trial court, they will go to appeal court, from the appeal court, they will go to Supreme Court, and they are entitled to it. There is nothing you can do. There is nothing you can do. For example, look at the issue of jurisdiction. If you just issue of jurisdiction, a defense counsel will argue jurisdiction this way, that way. If the trial court is not agreeing with them, they go to appeal court. From appeal court, they go to Supreme Court before they resolve it and come back to the trial court to start the matter. So it is because of the nature of the judiciary, and of course.
So are you then saying, Mr. Oyewale, are you saying, that the Nigerian judiciary is one of the clogs in the wheel of the EFCC with regards to high-profile cases?
No. I'm not saying that the judiciary is one of the clogs or one of the judiciary is not a problem. Every matter has to run the normal course. And for us to get fairness, justice, and everything that the court has to offer, the normal process is not in Nigeria alone. All over the world, a matter must follow the normal course. It must follow the rightful processes and procedures. In the judiciary, I can't blame it on the judiciary. For example, if someone is talking about jurisdiction and is arguing it, are we going to say because the judiciary does not want to be seen, to be portrayed in bad light, you will not allow him to...
Yeah, but the problem here is... I get your point, but the problem here is, if a case has gone on for 5 years, 7 years, or even more, that doesn't seem normal anymore because we are simply arguing about jurisdiction and whatnot. That's not normal. And again, you mentioned that you score a lot of high-profile convictions. Is there any that we can mention from past governors and the likes recently that we've seen that the EFCC has been able to score?
We have quite a number of high-profile cases that we have been able to get COVID. Look at the issue of Johnny Nnauye, the issue of Joshua Darie, the issue of Kalu, the former governor of Abia State. These are high-profile cases. And the commission secured convictions. You understand? Many more. And even those that are at different stage of trial now, they are nearing completion. What I'm trying to say is that all of these cases, they have to follow the rightful procedure. We are not going to say because, oh, we don't want the commission to be seen in this way, to be seen in that way, then we now short-circuit the judicial process. No, you don't do that. You allow the judicial processes and procedure to follow the rightful course. And when conviction is secured, then it will be in the overall interest of the nation.
Let's talk about the role that the EFCC plays pre-conviction or the arraignment in court. There have been many who would say that the EFCC sometimes, because of, I mean, you've mentioned that the law will take its course, and like you and I know, sometimes the slightest technical issue might lead to the case being frustrated because of what we refer to as technical legalities. And some would argue that the EFCC maybe hasn't done its due diligence before, arraigning a number of people, which then gets the case kicked out in court. And as a matter of fact, that what they end up doing is they arrest people, keep them in detention whilst they're doing their investigation, whilst they're doing their due diligence, so sort of putting the cart before the horse. What would you say in response to that?
There is nothing like that. Let me tell you, if you follow the trajectory of our cases and you are familiar with all of the elements, all of the issues that are involved, the Commission has one of the most successful and impressive prosecution record in Nigeria. I will tell you that we have about 98% success rate in our prosecution. Go and check. So if you lose one or two cases because of some technical issues that you cannot even blame on the Commission, then you cannot say that the Commission is not prepared, is not diligent, is not applying its job very well. Let me tell you that there is no way an arrest will be made over any issue if investigation has not been concluded. We don't make arrests whimsically, emotionally, irresponsibly. No, we don't do that. Before an arrest is made, you can be so sure that we have concluded our investigation. And you can, if you are familiar with anyone that has an issue with the EFCC, the moment an arrest is made, all of the issues that are involved, one by one, will be placing before the suspect, how it is done. If investigation had not been concluded, how would they have been able to ask all of these questions? So you see, I think we should just separate ourselves from assumptions, presumptions, and all of those things that have no basis with the reality that is on ground. You need to be familiar with the way we do our job for you to know that before an arrest, investigation will have been concluded. And of course, and that is why with the new leadership now, our bail and arrest procedure have been considerably reviewed. There is no way to make an arrest in less than 48 hours. We are already in court. So if we have not concluded the investigation, how will we have been able to do all of those things?
I want to know, I mean, because I was asking about the judiciary earlier. You said it's not the judiciary that is to blame, but then you said it's the defense lawyers and, of course, them always, countering with jurisdiction and all that. If the EFCC has carried out proper investigation and it knows that it has a very strong case against a former governor, can you give an idea? And I know it's not up to you to determine, but give me an idea of how long you expect a case to last before you conclude and the person's either found guilty or not guilty.
It is not for us to say what to
right, but if a case has lasted for 5 years, don't you find, aren't you uncomfortable with that?
If you are familiar with the administration of the Criminal Justice Act 2015,
yeah,
these issues have been clearly spelled out on what should be the lifespan, what should be the tenure when a matter is charged to court. All the issue of interlocutory injunction here and there that has always been delaying cases, they have been taken care of, by the administration of Criminal Justice Act. And that is why all our cases now, we are gaining speed, we are gaining traction. But it is not for us to say that, if you charge this matter to court in 2 days, in 3 days. No, it is not a press button thing now. The judiciary has its own processes and procedures. And if you really want to get justice, you must allow all of these processes and procedures to take the rightful course.
Yeah.
If someone asks, if for example, a suspect feels that he has not been rightly arraigned, rightly, the jurisdiction issues have not been rightly, resolved, he has a right to place it before the court, and the court will adjudicate on that. So it is not for us to say, the natural time for a matter should be 2 years, should be 3 years. No, it depends on the peculiarity of the matter. It depends on the issues that are placed before the court and some other issues.
All right, brilliant.
So I agree with you that need for us to build it, concerning the trial of all of these cases, and both the judiciary, the EFCC. Yeah, the AJA is because of the AJA 2015. If you are familiar with the provision of the Administration of Criminal Justice, you see that all of these issues are addressed in that act. And if you go to any of our courts now, you can see that all of these issues, they have been taken care of.
All right. Earlier in the year, and of course, once again, when you talk about high-profile cases, I'm sure you know what Nigerians really want to see. Nigerians want to see former governors. Nigerians want to see high political figures go through the process of a proper investigation with the EFCC and, of course, go to court. If they're found innocent, that's fine. If they're found guilty, they are sent to jail. But there's not a lot of that. You mentioned Joshua Darie. That was in 2012. Audio Zokalu is currently walking free, so it's not, like that is a conviction that Nigerians are satisfied with. Earlier this year, there was a report from the EFCC about 13 governors, about 772 billion naira in total, that, of course, their cases were being revived. Can you give us updates on those cases, or where we are?
Well, I expect that you'll be familiar with development and issues in the EFCC. What you are talking about, 13 governor, all of those things, the matter did not come from us. We issued a statement that it did not come from us. So, and it was just speculation and, media, the normal media, incursion into whatever is being done. We never issued a statement. We never said anything to that effect. That I think governors, all of the money that you are putting, it's not from us. We issued a statement. But let me tell you that that in the lifetime of the administration of Mr. Nnauye, about 3 former governors have been arraigned. Former governor of Anambra State, former governor of Kwara State, even Yaya Bello, we are placing before the court. Former ministers like Ondo State, Salimama, we are in court against them. If within 9 months you have 3 former governors successfully arraigned before the court, you have 2 former ministers already in court and you are in court with them, then I think the commission deserves a kind of approval.
Well, Yaya Bello hasn't showed up in court yet.
Let me tell you that, to all intents and purposes, the EFCC cannot be the accuser and the judge in his own case. When you present a matter before the court, it's before the court. You cannot say because you have placed this matter before the court, it should follow this way, it should follow this trajectory, it should follow this traction. No. You cannot be the accuser and be judging your own matter. Your own is to do your job, place it before the court, and the pyrotechnics of the law, the architecture, everything that has to do with the judiciary, we take its natural course.
Fair enough. Now,
so from our own end is to do our job. Do your investigation, place a matter before the court, go to court again with the suspect, whatever the court decides, so be it.
Mr. Oyewale, as quickly as possible, we want to address conversations of the EFCC picking on young people, seemingly innocent young people. There have been several reports of them storming into hotels, breaking into doors, arresting people. We did see a protest a few weeks back regarding this, where people were in their rooms and the EFCC people refer to as the EFCC bursting there. And, I don't know whether there's been any follow-up on this story. First of all, I think the Akure one. Has there been any follow-up? Have there been any arrests? Is there an investigation being conducted? Also, how often, how well, or how soon, better put, how soon can we see an end to, these stereotypical arrests and random picking on young people who look a certain type of way because there's an assumption that they're into fraud?
Now, well, thank you for that. The Akure issue, a Yahoo party was planned. It was actually underway. We made a survey. We did our surveillance for 2 weeks before we actually made the arrest. And we made 127 suspects were arrested. Out of these 127 suspects, 119 of them, they were indicted. About 45 of them have been convicted already. And concerning the Lagos one, yes, some of our operatives, they behave rather unprofessionally, especially, with the video that we saw concerning the assault of that hotel staff. And the commission has rightfully taken the normal, they were arrested, placed before a disciplinary team, and the result of whatever the disciplinary team is coming out will be made public. Let me tell you, when you are making arrests all over the world, the arrest is not a tea party, it's not an embrace.
Sorry, sir, just quickly chip in. You said something about a Yahoo party. Did I hear you clearly say Yahoo party?
Yeah, the Akure operation, yeah.
Was a Yahoo
party was under.
There were videos of women whose bodies were assaulted. There was a video of someone who was in her room and they stormed in and hit her.
That video.
Is that part of it?
It was not from that operation.
Okay, great.
You see, people have a way of bringing all of these issues.
No, hold on, Mr. Oyewale. Just to be clear, the incident in Ojo, in the hotel in Ojo, is what my colleague is referring to. There's another incident in Akure where ladies were brutalized and there were marks all over their body. There are two separate incidents.
The incident in Ojo.
Yes.
119 suspects were arrested, and 112 of them were indicted. And we are about taking all of them to court. You see, let me tell you something about all of these issues. If you have not done our surveillance, we will not go to a place and make arrests. These people, that hotel, our intelligence showed that there was a convergence of all these suspected internet fraudsters in that hotel. And we went there. I agree that the way that female star was handled was not too good. And that was why the commission took the rightful punitive action against the officer. Outside of that, all the arrests that were made, all the suspects that the arrest needed, they were rightfully arrested. They were indicted. We are about charging them to court. You see, all this insinuation that is always in the public, that whenever a stage operation is done by the commission, it is done without a recognizer, without surveillance, just bump into a place. No responsible law enforcement agency will do that.
We hear you clearly. We hear you clearly, boy.
Let me tell you, many of these stage of operations, the neighborhood, like that Akure issue, we got our intelligence from neighbors around the place.
All right. We have to end the conversation now, Mr. Oyewale, but I want you to give us your word that when we come back to you, because we do have other questions that we would like for you to answer and some other issues we would like for you to throw light on, but we want you to please give us your word that you will grant us another interview.
Oh, it's my job now.
Okay.
Anytime you want me, I'm available.
Right.
Also, would you now apologize to those ladies that were assaulted during your raids, including the one in Ojo, the one in Akure? Would you be able to publicly apologize to both of them or all of them?
I don't know what you mean by apology. I told you that all those officers that didn't behave professionally, they are already facing disciplinary action.
Yeah, but I mean, I understand that, but it's not too hard for the EFCC to also apologize to them.
It's not in my place. No, it is not in my place to concede such an apology. Our own is that if we feel that normal professional conduct, has been breached, we take the normal action, which we have taken. We have taken that.
All right. Unfortunately, we won't have time to explore other questions, but we certainly will take you up on the offer of a second interview. Thank you, Mr. Dele Oyewale, the head Media and Publicity for the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, for joining us this morning.
Thank you so much.
All right.
And now it's time to share with you the major stories making headlines across Nigeria this morning. On the newspapers, we have joining us Ikechukwu Amechi from the Niche Newspapers. Good morning and thanks for joining us, sir.
Good morning.
Interesting times. I'm expecting that Dangote will make the news again this morning, or maybe not. Well, let's start with the Punch newspapers this morning so we can find fuel crisis Marketers project 700 billion naira monthly subsidy. It says NNPC mom, as dealers insist government is still paying subsidy. Reps probe crude shortage. Dangote eyes foreign markets for refinery products. Federal government meets Kyari and Dangote over dispute. Nigeria records $1 billion international transfer inflows in 3 months. And also, hunger protest. NLC warns against clampdown. We can also find on top of your screen on the Punch this morning, windfall tax. Federal government insists on sanctions for defaulting bank chiefs, and organized private sector opposes fresh interest hike rate. These are the major stories I think that we can take on the Punch because of time this morning.
Right, now let's go to the next paper. The next paper is the first news. Okay, let's do the Daily Independent is pretty light. But okay, let's see. Aviation fuel at 1,550 naira to a litre. Holds back sector, pushes fares sky high. Hardship, NLC President advises Tinubu on how to avert proposed protest. Federal government brokers peace as Lokbobiri meets Dangote, NMDPRA, NUPRC, and an NNPCL. That's all on the Daily Independent. Do we go to another paper before we get into the conversations?
I think quickly on The Guardian this morning, over 30,000 jobs lost to closure of manufacturing firms in 4 years. We have the same ad on the Daily Independent as we have on The Guardian, which is a thank you from government Owezide Ezemokpulo, aka Tompolo, as he thanks Mr. President for the appointment of Didi Esther Watson Jack as the new head of the Civil Service of the Federation. It says basically, thank you for appointing our daughter and our sister into that position. Very interesting. I'm sure Mr. Amici would like to comment on that as well. It's on the 2 front pages, Daily Independent and The Guardian. Must be a really, really big a national story of national interest. All right, federal government and Dangote and NPC meet, explore solutions to refinery and crude crisis. Planned protest, NLC, NANS orders insist government must address hunger and hardship. GDP ranking, it's been 9 years of retrogression. Obi laments. All right, let's first of all start with the NNPC, Dangote, and of course all the controversies surrounding them, and the NMDPRA. I beg your pardon.
Well, it is good that they are talking at last, because it wouldn't be in the country's interest if the Dangote refinery, no matter what anybody says about Dangote and his business, it wouldn't be in Nigeria's interest if that refinery goes down. Look, all the excuses, all the reasons that the government is giving, and don't forget, this is very important. The Minister of Petroleum is President Bola Ahmed Tinubu.
Yes.
So, if there is any issue, if the NNPC or any subsidiary of the NNPC issues a statement, it is the presidency or it is the federal government that is doing this. So, the crisis that we've seen all these months is a problem between the federal government and an entrepreneur in the person of Aliko Dangote. What are the issues involved? The federal government is accusing Aliko Dangote of aspiring to be a monopoly. Maybe. But the truth of the matter is that, look, NNPC has 4 refineries that it has spent trillions of naira over the years, claiming that it is turning around. None of them is working. So if Dangote is actually going to be a monopoly in the petroleum industry, you blame the government. They should revamp their 4 refineries. Right now, NNPC is also a monopoly, because NNPC is the sole importer of
crude,
of petrol in the country. So it is this, like I said earlier, it does Nigeria no good whatsoever. Because when the biggest Nigerian investor, like Dangote, is crying, is saying that his friends are telling him, we told you not to invest in Nigeria. How then do you attract foreign investors that you claim you are junketing all over the world, trying to bring in? If you are indigenous entrepreneurs are bailing out and saying, this is not an economy, this is not a system we can invest in. How do you convince any other person out there to come in? So the point I'm trying to make is that it is in Nigeria's interest that this whole brouhaha, that if you ask me, I will tell you is needless.
Right.
Don't forget also, because, you know, I keep on going to APC as a political party that has been in power since 2015. Because what these guys are trying to do is to distance themselves from what Buhari did in 8 years. Don't forget, last year, Buhari as president came with all the whole fanfare to Lagos to open a Dangote refinery.
Yes.
To commission a Dangote refinery.
Yes.
Now, the same government, APC government, because don't forget also that Tinubu said he was going to continue from where Buhari stopped. This same APC government is telling us now that the Dangote refinery is only about 45% completed. So what did Buhari commission? The deceit, the lies that these guys have brought on board in the last 9 years is insufferable.
We're also saying that Nigerians have called for the resignation of the CEO of NMDPRA, Farouk Ahmed, because he had said that Dangote's product was substandard in comparison to product that has been imported. Do you think that that's a valid call?
It goes beyond what the DG of
CEO of NMDPRA.
The CEO, it goes beyond him. Like I said, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu is the Minister of Petroleum. There is nothing that CEO came out to say that did not have the backing of an NPC and did not have the backing of the entire petroleum industry, supervised by President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. So, for all I care, sacking him is making him a fall guy. It's not the issue. He couldn't have said what he said all on his own. It's not possible. If you know the way government works, particularly a government like the one we have now, that guy could not have said what he said without the backing of the government of the day. So calling for his sack is the usual things we do in this country. We always look for a fall guy when something has gone terribly wrong.
Yep.
And I don't fall for it.
All right. On the Punch, it says fuel crisis, marketers project 700 billion naira monthly subsidy. Of course, it's boldly written there, even when President Bola Tinubu announced a subsidy is gone. NNPC Mamas dealers insist government is still paying subsidy. Do you expect that we would have a House of, Reps investigation, or into whether Nigeria is still paying subsidy or not, or are we just going to keep acting like we don't know what's going on?
But before then, let's take this call. Let's hear from Kolawole, who's calling. Hello, Kolawole. Good morning. Thanks for calling. Please go ahead with your comment.
Good morning. God bless your station. They are talking of monopoly. What is NNPC doing? NNPC, is it not NNPC doing monopoly? Only NNPC. How many people the government gave license to do refinery? Only Dangote did refinery. He has commissioned it. He has brought diesel from 1,600 to 900. That is why they are jittery. They know that when they allow him to put PMS into the system, the price will crash. These people are killing Nigeria. They should know. They should allow the man to operate. Man that has opened a place of 50,000 employees. 50,000 employees with about 250,000 households at that area. official quota for them. These people, Kyari should go, Farouk should go. They have overstayed in that NMPC. They have overstayed. Mele Kyari should go. Farouk should go. All those status should be removed from NMPC and let Nigeria live and give people welfare that they deserve in this country.
All right.
Thanks, Dr. Lawale.
Thanks for calling.
Samichi.
Yeah, well, what did you ask again?
Petrol subsidy. Marketers project 700 billion.
See, it is obvious that the government is paying subsidy. You were asking if the National Assembly should probe, but they know. They know. And why do I say so? Of course, everybody has said that this issue of petrol subsidy has come back. Because when you remove the subsidy, floated the naira, and we now have a situation where $1 exchanges for about 1,500 naira.
Yeah.
Also, ask yourself, what is the landing cost of the petrol destined in Nigeria? It is not anything below 1,000 naira. So if you are selling at
750 currently.
750, it then means that somebody is taking off the differential between the 750 you are charging and the landing cost. Government is paying subsidy, but you know, the deceit continues to go on, and as long as the naira remains as it is, as long as you don't have the capacity to refine your crude internally, there's no way you can remove the full subsidy. So government is even perhaps paying more in terms of subsidy today than when President Bola Tinubu made his famous or infamous, depending on which side of the divide you are, subsidy is gone statement on May 29, 2023. So I believe Punch. I don't think it takes rocket science for anybody to know that given the devaluation that we've had in the value of the naira, given where naira is today, there is no way 750 naira will be the worth, the actual worth of the petrol that we buy. It is much more higher than that. And somebody is taking off the differentials, and that can only be the government.
Yeah. All right. I also want us to look at the Daily Independent. And just before then, to mention to our viewers that we have a few more minutes and we can take maybe one more call before we wrap it up. Hardship. NLC President advises Tinubu on how to avert proposed protests. That made me chuckle. Does the NLC currently have the influence to advise the president on how to avert a protest? Does the NLC have the popularity and the support of the Nigerian young people who want to go on this protest?
I don't think they do. But again, that is even beside the point. Whatever NLC decides to do, to advise or not to advise, President Bola Tinubu knows what the issues are. He knows why the people are protesting. And, you know, it's sad where we have found ourselves in this country. When the president's SA, Bayo Onanoga, issued the statement he did the other day, that is the saddest thing that has happened for me as a person, that this government is going on and on, trying to incite the people against people who have nothing to do. Look, what is uniting Nigerians today is hunger.
All right, hold on. Let's quickly get Shitu from Oyo. Good morning, Shitu.
Good morning. Nnauye.
Very well. Go ahead quickly.
Yes. I'm calling from Oyo State.
Thank you very much. Please go ahead.
Good morning. How are you?
We can hear you. Please go ahead. Thanks for calling.
Yes. About the issue of NMDPRA and Dangote. You can hear me? Are you hearing me now?
All right. Seems we might have to call us back. Yeah.
See, that statement by Bayo Onanuga is the most unfortunate thing. I didn't know that this government can descend so low as to do what they did. I said earlier that the thing that is uniting Nigerians is the poverty that is affecting everybody. And poverty has no ethnicity. It has no religion. Poverty is poverty. The man in Kano who is poor, the man in Sokoto who is hungry, the man in Imo who is poor, is poor. It has nothing to do with your ethnicity. It has nothing to do with this. So for government, and another sad thing is that, look, these are people who made an industry. In fact, Tinubu's career, what propelled him to where he is today, is his ability to protest, organize protests in this country. That these people now in power have turned around on January 11th, 2012, when Jonathan removed fuel subsidy. On January 1st, 2012, Bola Tinubu wrote a very powerful article published in The Nation, his newspaper.
Yeah.
I don't forget. The title of that article is Removal of Oil Subsidy. President Jonathan breaks social contract with the people. If you crave my indulgence, I will read the first paragraph of that. It says, as Nigerians gathered with family and friends to celebrate the new year, the federal government was baking a national cake wrapped in the scheme that would instantly make the new year a bitter one. Barely had the public weaned itself from last year when government dropped a historic surprise on an unsuspecting nation. PPRA issued a statement. Tinubu went on and on and on and on. And the crux of the matter is that he said, why he is not advocating for violence, that the people have the inalienable right to protest. It is a right not given by the government. The people have the right to protest bad governance. So for you to turn around now to say protest against bad governance is treason, I think that is the height of how they have taken Nigerians, the disregard they have for Nigerians.
All right, let's quickly take this call from Benue. We have Tony Eze. Good morning. Thanks for calling, Mr. Tony Eze. Please go ahead with your comment.
Thank you so much. I want to comment back on the protest that is about to come. For some of us that are on the street, I'm appealing to government, please and please, if we still love his people, our leaders, if we still love his people, we should urgently summon a meeting. Not like NSA zone when things is being gotten bad before they start summoning meeting. We should summon meeting because as Nigeria is now, we don't need protest for now. We don't need protest for now. So many Nigerians they are angry. So many. And if Ahmed Bola Tinubu, our president, still loves Nigerians as his own people, the only thing he will do for us, because some of us, I cannot go on the street and protest the age I am now. But the youth are vibrant, they are ready to go to the street. If he still loves us and love our children, let him summon meeting and start addressing the issue one by one now. Please and please. Good morning.
So, I will advise President Tinubu to go back and read that his own letter, the letter he wrote on 11th January 2012, to go back and read it and situate where we are today. If what we are going through today does not deserve the people saying no, enough is enough.
So you're saying that the protests, whilst you acknowledge that the protests are a right of the Nigerian people, do you endorse that the young people should go on the protest? Our last caller, Tony Eze, says that he should not be like William Ruto that tried to put out the fire while the fire had already started, but basically now have conversations, have meetings, do whatever.
What kind of meetings even?
I don't know, to prevent the protest from happening. So,
meetings with who? Meetings with who? Bayo Nanogas said that P2B and obedience and IPOP, whatever, should be held responsible. How? Who are the leaders of this protest group? And P2B is not the leader of obedience. Obedience movement is an amorphous group of young, disgruntled, angry Nigerians who are angry with what is going on in their own country. If you ask me, I will tell you that they are the most patriotic Nigerians ever. What government should do, it is not the fact of the protest itself that people should be preaching against. It is to appeal to government not to do what they did in 2020, where NSAS protest, organized by enlightened youths, young Nigerians, government infiltrated it and sabotaged it. We all saw on live television, government dropping in jeeps, thugs who brought violence into that protest. And don't forget that it was the government that ordered soldiers to Lekki toll gate. ECOWAS court gave a judgment the other day where it eviscerated the government for the role it played in the debacle that was the NSAS protest. So scapegoating people and gaslighting a whole race does not solve the problem. Nigerians are angry. People have empty pockets. And saying, like we argued last week, you are sending two trucks of rice to Lagos or to any state where each citizen gets one mudu of rice, if at all they get up to that, cannot solve the problem.
None of us got rice.
No, I didn't get any rice.
I didn't get any
So,
rice.
but I think it also is, maybe the mentality that, the whole country is just one big IDP camp. And so anytime that they complain, you give them rice and everybody will be fine, But we're out of time. I always enjoy hearing you speak on these issues. Thank you very much for joining us today. Hopefully next week when you come, the stories will be bright. We'll be happier. But for today, there's still very sad stories across the newspapers. Stay with us this morning. Breakfast Central continues. We have one more conversation coming up right after this break. Stay with us. Welcome once again. Now, African countries seem to be passing the protest baton. Nigerians are currently divided over a planned nationwide protest scheduled for the 1st of August to the 10th, aimed at demanding better governance from their current administration. The call for demonstrations, which allegedly originated in northern Nigeria, has sparked controversy within the northern community, with the Northern Ethnic Group Assembly withdrawing its support only recently. The debate also has intensified, with some people urging Nigerian youths to engage in dialogue with the government instead, while others insist that the protest is necessary for urgent change. Joining us is legal practitioner and political commentator Deji Adeyanju. Good morning. Thanks for joining us, Mr. Adeyanju.
Yes, good morning, and thank you for having me.
Okay. All right. I mean, let's first of all get your views on the call for a protest. There's those who say that they do not support it. They have pulled out of it. There's those who say Nigerians need to be patient with President Bola Tinubu and give him some time for his the steps he has taken so far to materialize. What is your take? Do you think that Nigerians should protest, or should we be patient?
Yes, sincerely speaking, I think Nigerians should protest. I think protest is an inalienable right of the citizens of Nigeria. Those calling on Nigerians not to protest or not to express their grievances are indirectly trying to take away the constitutional rights guaranteed to every citizen in the country. You know, the successive governments have always made these protests to make it appear as though citizens will not have any rights whatsoever to express their grievances. And on the other leg of the question as to whether the people should express enough patience, the people have been patient enough for over a year since this government came into power. The level of hunger and the contempt in the country is unbearable. A crate of egg is now almost at 5,000 naira. A small tube of yam is between 5,000 to 7,000 naira. People can barely eat. People are feeding from the dustbin. Majority of the citizenry are completely disillusioned. But the people who are immune from suffering are the ones making the call and dismissing the happenings in the country and the suffering in the land. There's extreme hunger in the country. And this is why there's growing concern and growing interest by the citizenry to protest.
Yeah, but I mean, for those who say, I mean, 1 year is not enough, you know, wouldn't you agree with them that 1 year in office is really not enough time for the change that Nigerians are expecting? Or is there some other reason why Nigerians have lost faith, even if it's just 1 year in?
Yes. Well, 1 year is not enough to have destroyed the economy this bad. The economy is so bad. The government needs to bring back subsidy because before subsidy removal, we were not paying this much. Now we are paying over almost 1 trillion naira per month for subsidy, and President Tinubu says subsidy is gone. So who is pulling who? Yes, indeed, 1 year is too soon to have destroyed our legal tender, the naira, this bad. When this president came in, the naira was at 600 and something naira. That is almost 1,600, you know, and something. So that is just outrageous, you know. And also the economic indices, we have never seen a situation in this country where inflation has ever been this high, where almost the prices of all goods and services have tripled. So the Nigerians are bearing the brunt, and the politicians are having a field day. There's more to loot now under this government than any government in the history of Nigeria. The principal officers of the National Assembly, in the Senate and the House of Reps, they have over 2,000 aides. And you expect people to persevere. You expect Nigerians to make sacrifices. When this government came into power, a litre of petrol was at 165, 167 naira. Now a litre of petrol is almost at 700 naira, depending on where you are buying it from. And the argument they are even canvassing for is that petrol is going to be sold very soon. They are trying to increase the price of petrol to over 1,000 naira, and they are telling people not to protest. There's an attempt to compromise and bribe protest leaders, you know, religious leaders,
right,
traditional rulers, to dissuade them from protesting.
But if this protest if the protest eventually goes on, how do you foresee that this will force the hand of the government for the necessary desired change that young Nigerians and Nigerians in general are clamoring for? And how do you see this protest, or the outcome of this protest, being different from the October 2020 protest?
Yes, sincerely speaking, many of us, contrary to the perception in and around government that we want the government to fail, I don't want the government to fail. I want this government to succeed. Because if the government succeeds, Nigeria will succeed. You know, so sincerely speaking, I'm not a member of the opposition. I do not speak as representing the opposition. I'm speaking as someone who is concerned about the economic plight of our dear country. I'm somebody who is speaking from the position of the point that I want the government to succeed and I want the nation to succeed. I'm I'm someone who is speaking from the point of view that I believe that the government, this particular government, has ruined Nigeria. I also believe that the economic policies of the government are anti-people, and they are inclined towards the bidding of IMF, who have a record of destroying so many countries, especially the underdeveloped and developing countries. Their policies have never helped, and they will never help. And they keep telling people, underdeveloped nations to remove subsidies, but the developed nations, they all subsidize several services to the citizens. Yes, so how will this protest be different? Yes, this protest will be different because errors have been made from the NSAS protest, which many citizens have learned. The idea of protest is for government to make amends and for government to accede to the demands of protesters. So the key element of this particular protest that will distinguish it from the 2020 protest will be to the fact that this protest aims at making government to shift ground to carry out specific reforms. Since this government came into being, the people have been on the receiving end, but the leaders have been having a field day. There's more for the governors to loot, there's more for the parliament to loot, there's more for the executive to loot, but the people are suffering. So, government, this particular government must make amends to cut cost of governance at all levels. There is no need why we have this amount of government agencies and parastatals. There's no need for us to have this amount of aides at the National Assembly. In fact, political office holders should be a hobby, not a full-time job. Yeah. Should be on a part-time basis because our country is broke and almost bankrupt.
All right.
So these are going to be the aims and objectives of this protest to drive maximum reform in the governance structure of our country. It's not about, we want to have some disruptions here and there. No.
All right, just quickly.
A situation where the inflation figures will be lower. We cannot be using import tariffs to generate funds when people are stealing our crude on the high sea and the Nape is complicit and the president knows this. Yeah. And if we are looking for ways of generating income and revenue for the country, let's not crude oil theft on the high sea because that's where the real crude oil theft is happening. The president can today remove the Nape from surveillance of our crude oil facilities on the high sea and put the army. I particularly believe that General Abaja is capable of stopping crude oil theft on the high sea because the Navy has shown that they are not competent enough to stop crude oil sale. There are other low-hanging fruit because many people think we only criticize. For instance, aviation. Nigeria has a population of over 200 million people. Why can't we have our own airlines doing all the international routes? Because I just traveled and got back. Nigerians are traveling in thousands every day. That can generate enough forex for our country.
Absolutely.
Additionally,
all right, Mr. DeAndrew.
We can do a lot of export as a nation. We need to loosen all the bureaucratic bottlenecks around exporting of farm products in the country. Too many bottlenecks.
Hopefully, Mr. President is paying attention and is listening. The protest is meant to be on the 1st of August, I believe, from the 1st to the 10th of August. There's many who even say that it possibly would not even hold. There's also those who have blamed IPOB and the obedient group for the protest. But we're unfortunately out of time, DJ DeAndrew. It's always interesting speaking with you. Thank you very much for sharing your time with us this morning, and we wish you a fantastic day ahead.
Thank you.
All right. And this is where we will be wrapping up. We will continue conversations, as they develop concerning the protest, if it will happen. Hopefully, between now and the end of the week, we have more persons share their views on the possibility of a nationwide protest. For now, it is goodbye, and we'll be back again tomorrow morning. I am Osaogi Ogbonwa.
And I am Olive Emodi. Stay well.